Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to the channel RPG with DBJ because guess what? I'm your host, DBJ, and welcome to the show. Well, and especially this Third Pillar Thursday. Now, of course, I have to do this preamble. For those who do not know, the third pillar of exploration is generally one of three pillars in generalized in tabletop role-playing games, with combat and social interactions being the first and second pillars. And of course, I am a huge I'm a huge supporter of the third pillar of gaming, and I think we don't really talk about it too much. And sure, it can be a little bit difficult to shoehorn it into other meta thesis that we come up on this channel. But today, today and this whole week, since we've been talking about science fiction, and specifically like 3D printing and digital assets and things of that nature, I thought we could bring it up today and come up with some ways in which they no longer become problems, but they become solutions. They become tools in our toolkit in our tabletop RPG. Hmm? Tabletop RPG setting. Cameron says CC says your name is Stevie J. Oh, the closed caption, DBJ. Hopefully, it will correct itself. Okay, so I didn't realize I've never seen the closed caption. I'm sure it's quite jumbled because I can be mumble mouthed sometimes. All right, so when it comes to science fiction, and if the thumbnail says something to the effect of open source body and mind, and something came across to me, strangely enough, from gambling. So there is a card game that is very popular. It's been aired on ESPN and other shows where gambling card games are now like aired on television. And it made me think of, wow, the game just went through. I literally lost it out of my head. It's Texas Hold'em. Wow, I can't believe it. I literally forgot the name while I was thinking of the name while I was talking. So in Texas Hold'em, there the idea is that you have two cards, and all the people around the table have two cards, and then the house throws down three more cards. And so each person at the table both has something in their hand, but they also have to use what's available in front of them, all of them equally. So in effect, everyone knows at least three of the cards that everyone else at the table has, but they don't know the two cards that are hidden from each other. And it makes the reason why I'm bringing that up in terms of science fiction is that most of the time in science fiction, we tend to think of singular technologies and interactions. What do I mean? Like, for example, let's take Star Wars. Star Wars has the Millennium Falcon, and the Millennium Falcon is seen in this universe as like a hunk of junk. It's old school. It can't fly. It's not fast. It's a freighter. Who cares what this thing is, right? But also, it's got like a little bit of a legendary status. People have seen the ship before. They're familiar with the pilot, or at least they're familiar with Chewbacca. I don't know who this Han Solo guy is, likes to call himself, whatever. But you get the point, right? You don't. Many times, you often don't see that starship anywhere else, despite the fact that you're told that this is like this old school freighter. And the same can be said for like some of the weapons people use, some of their tactics, uniforms, and things of that nature. On the other hand, we when there's far more organization in our science fiction, you will see people like, for example, take a video game like Halo, and you will see other like base armored individuals, or you're talking Robotech, where people are piloting base Veritech vehicles, and then you have your heroes that have like they pull from the same pool of technology, but then they add to it. So your hero running around with M14 or M16 rifles or something, but then my hero has an underslung grenade launcher to it, or laser sights, or there's a Desert Eagle, but the bad guy's Desert Eagle is plated in gold with like I don't know, black onyx grips or something silly like that. So I'm coming from the idea that there's a pool of technology, and the both our protagonists and then of course their enemies, their antagonists, get the pull from the same uh, get the pull from the same uh, elements, uh, same technological play bin, I guess you could say, with building blocks. And I think there's something we can. I think there's a little bit of something we can pull from that. That hey, let's all play with the same toys, but we have different ideas on how to play with them. I suppose you could make the analogy of there's a sandbox and there's only so many things, toys in the sandbox. What will you use with them? I've never heard of Stevie J, or maybe I had Stevie B. I don't know. I hope that person doesn't shut me down by using their name in the closed caption. So I think there's since you guys know that I love myself some transhumanism, we could take this step a little bit further if there are like open source or off the shelf. And when I say open source, it yes, you can have a habitat where literally people's memories and skill sets and psychology is open for all the masses, but maybe it's a little bit more restricted, although unregulated as far as the player characters go and the people they conflict with. Like, for example, if they're all black ops agents or something, or black marketeers or smugglers or assassins or mercenaries or something like that, a rebellious factor, it might be open source to them and also to their adversaries, whereas to the general public it may not be. But I'm thinking, you know, if you've got blueprints and you could take blueprints to and get things 3D printed, there are starships in and around the world. How many times have we seen a um, pick any technological movie or television, and when they come across each other in deep space, they'll go, sensors say it's a dreadnought class starship or something with 16, I don't know, rail guns and 57 torpedo rocket things ready to launch or whatever. And so both sides understand that there's like, okay, you know what, dreadnought class ships all have these capabilities. And I think sometimes in tabletop games, unlike other intellectual properties, sometimes we take it a little personal or feel like we're losing something, we're losing control of our game if we let the players know up front what the danger is, right? Like it's the proverbial Dungeons and Dragons dungeon where you put an X on every single pit trap in the dungeon. It's like, well, on one hand, maybe we're thinking a little bit too deeply about it in terms of, well, why would I let my players know where all the pit traps are? But maybe that's the point, right? Like sometimes if you want to instill tension or horror or excitement or nervousness, to let someone know what the danger is before they actually encounter the danger is, I think, can be just as effective as not having the danger there at all. Because we've seen plenty of times in like books or graphic novels, movies, television, when something comes out of nowhere and it's unpredictable, you're like, who inserted this into the story? Whereas if they know what the dangers are ahead of time, we then in some ways can sit on the edge of our seat in anticipation of what the next danger is. Um, Plenty of survival movies use this trope a lot. Plane crashes into high altitude mountain location. People there need to survive. We already know, okay, what's going to happen? Are they going to freeze to death? Are they going to have to climb up and or down? extremely high locations. Is someone going to fall through the snow into a crevice or something like that? We know there's going to be an avalanche. There's probably going to be a blizzard of some sort. Chances are one person's going to dangle off of something else while fingertips are barely brushing each other with the proverbial I'm going to cut myself free to save you. And like we know these things are going to happen. We don't know what order they're going to happen. We don't know what the storytelling is going to be. We don't know when it's going to happen. Which, if we have a crew of 8 and we've gotten to know all of them, who lives and who dies, which person's personality comes forward? Is it the a-hole who doesn't care about anybody that changes, or is it the so-called caretaker that's trying to get everybody to live, who's making it worse on everyone else because they can't let go of the weakest member or something of that nature? And I think those physical elements in a technological world where sensors can let what kind of power armor your enemy is using, et cetera, is I think is a benefit, or can be used as a benefit. Now, going a little further in terms of adversaries using certain kinds of weaponry and armor and such, is that what if there's a technological pool that the heroes and the villains can pull from, when the heroes know that they might be running against time? So, for example, a habitat may have a locked area where all the dangerous weaponry can be used. Right? We don't want common citizens running around with railguns and power armor in our half a million, the population of half a million in our Spindle City. Stack Spindle City, but there are places where we may need to use those weapons to defend us against um, alien factions or military incursions or anything like that. So the PCs know, all right, I know where all there's like 2 lock boxes of power armor and weaponry. We got to get there. And they know their adversaries are trying to get there too. And they're like, oh shit, like we need to get there first. Maybe we need to sabotage it. Maybe if we get to one and they get to the other, we know exactly what's inside of it. Maybe there are exactly 5 suits of power armor, six weapons, and a remote distancing device to bring in a I don't know, one of those dreadnought class starships that's always on ice or something, that's like, or some kind of drone that has weapons or cables or disruptors attached to it or whatever the case may be. And letting the players know that these dangers are out there, and maybe giving the players both access to it. Again, the open source idea, right? Like, if players are agents of law, maybe they have the ability to do overrides on 3D printers, overrides on mechanical systems in habitats, such as shutting down or opening up locked blast doors or something of that nature. I'm sure legal authorities would have the ability to bypass certain areas, or to get, I don't know, like maglev trains and automated mobile systems. Like, if every automobile is directed by AIs, of course the law enforcers or safety patrol, whether it's like police, fire, etc., would be able to shut those things down or make a pathway for the PCs who are acting as law to get through. But if the enemy has the ability to get into those bypass those open access areas and navigate their way as well, to shut down maglev trains and turbo lifts and things of that nature. So, in other words, the players are like, hey, I know what my capabilities are. And since we know how to use those things, our enemies have the same thing too. So we're going to need to watch out. Cameron says, an arms dealer convention like the beginning of that one Pierce Brosnan 007 movie. Oh, I know what you're talking about, and I loved Pierce Brosnan, but mid 90s. Yeah, I can't think of it. And I know it's on the tip of my tongue too there, Cameron. Um, the other idea about having open source mind and bodies, of course, when you're talking about transhumanism, is the fact that when the players arrive somewhere like, I don't know, Europa, and Europa's a big, I'm going to be very generalized, but it's got like a, I don't know, 5 mile thick icy um, crust where the inside is geologically active enough to make it all liquid. So when the PCs arrive, maybe the only morphs, or really the only morphs you even want to be inside of, you get your cortical stack put inside of something that's aquatic, maybe something that can navigate the icy icy tunnels and or surface. But for the most part, with like a deep 60-mile ocean, you're probably going to need to be in something aquatic. So the PCs know they might have to get inserted into like a merfolk type, dolphin-ish, squidian, octomorph styled, what's something, what's some other aquatic, really cool aquatic things like manta rays or sharks or killer whales or something of that nature. And aquatic humanoids would be anything from like Aquaman, where you just look like a regular human but you can swim fast, all the way to like merfolk or anything in between. Well, if the PCs know that, then that means they know that their enemies are have to under those same restrictions, right? Of course, you could have synthetic aquatic morphs and things, but you get my point. Dead Man says, or the movie Lord of War. Oh yeah, the Nicolas Cage. Yep, it had several arms dealer gatherings, pretty bloody ones too. Cam's like, one of Nicolas Cage's best movies. I should watch that again soon. Yep, and Dead Man brings up the Neo whales in as a morph option in Eclipse Phase. Yeah, I love Lord of War, and it is one of Nicolas Cage is it's one of his more reserved acting roles, which does the movie really, really good. As a matter of fact, the opening of Lord of War, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't it follow a 7.62 round through its history from construction to being fired or something? Like it's really cool because the camera keeps following it. But I love it. I think there's an Amazon series called 000, or is it Netflix? I think it's Amazon. It follows like cocaine or something from its inception to its use or whatever. Cameron says whales with the powers of the one. Is Shamu going to save the Matrix? Uh Something like that. I suppose that, strangely enough, yes. But I'm using Europa as an example of PCs arrive somewhere, they their technological capabilities are limited by where they're at. Therefore, they know that their adversaries are under the same restrictions or same open thing. Now, if you want to go more psychological, open source mind and body, I could see a very small outpost maybe for um, deep space sensors trying to look for alien species or something. So a research habitat of a couple of dozen of researchers, they might be sharing all of their knowledge as downloadable skills, like devoid of, separate from their memories, more or less their capabilities. So everyone can just plug in or download, or maybe there's a cloud server for neurosurgery, right? Yeah, Dead Man says 000 is an Amazon Prime. Yep, it's Amazon series. The the um the idea that you could send a bunch of researchers off into space so that none of them, you don't have to rely on one individual or two individuals to be a medic. Maybe there is uh, a, a chip that they can insert into their head, or because of cortical stacks and cloud servers and things like that, they can. So any member of the crew could become a neurosurgeon, and you could extend that further out into military and black ops and things like that. Like, hey, we need a sniper. Okay, I'll be the sniper today. And so the open source of the ability to get to it, and like I said, the open source doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't need to be a Goodwill store where you just walk in and grab it. It might be only accessible to black ops agents or law enforcement or agents of a particular faction or government agency or corporation. And absolutely positively, corporate agents might have access to financial records or specifically tucked away resources that no one's supposed to know about, but you might need to use them now. Um, i.e., extra super soldier serum that just seems to be hanging around that no one used until a television show started, and now everyone's got it, right? It's that kind of thing where there's access, so the PCs are running around to go get it, and they're like, yeah, we're going to use this and we're going to be badasses, but then now they realize, ooh, our enemies might have access to it too. Ooh, wow. Cameron says, if someone hacks the cloud, you download Krav Maga, you get T-posting. On a serious note, those data banks are a resource that you could really mess up. No, listen, I absolutely agree with you. And maybe it would be hilarious, but a hacker would do that. They would absolutely positively do that. Like, it okay, let's go back to the Matrix comment that you mentioned, right? In the Matrix, the Agent Smiths are everywhere in the Matrix because they can jump into what is essentially the digital minds of all the people that are plugged into the Matrix, right? That's why the heroes are running around, and they literally have to run away from everyone because the Smiths can jump into truck drivers and security guards and all that kind of stuff. Well, if we pull back a little bit on the Agent Smiths jumping into average human beings, it is a possibility that a HAB could have an AI. Let's go with an AI system for right now. An AI system could have a protocol that's law enforcement, and the law enforcement protocol is everyone who's a resident here can be recruited and used as a law enforcement officer. So the AI cloud, because everyone's got these cortical stacks or links in their brains or something like that. So the PCs are going to run and gun, boom, 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 right? I hear you, Vampanoid. So they're running around, and when the PCs turn the corner, they see. I'm going to they see an 80s shopping mall with a lady pushing a stroller and someone at Auntie Annie's with the with the soft pretzels and stuff, and maybe there's a person, a janitor mopping the floor, and then all of a sudden there's like boop, 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 and their brains turn on and they become these badass law enforcement officers, and they start running after the PCs because the AI system's like, nope, I'm recruiting them. Vampanoid's like downloading a program corrupted by a virus. Deleted breathing.exe. The breathing execution. You know what? Why the hell not? I no. You're fine there, Vampanoid. I get it. And that, why not? Why couldn't a hacker hack into someone's brain? And because in transhuman gaming, the brain is just technology. Why couldn't you just go down the roll down screen and go, here we go. Let's see. Breathing. Let's like they're cracking too many jokes. Let's turn the jokes down from 89 smart alecky comments to a percentage of 13. Um, oh, here, let's make you hungry. What are you only at 7%? Let's rack that up to 93%, right? Now, it of course, not only would it not be that easy anyway, you wouldn't want it to be that easy, but in the movie Upgrade, when Cameron talks about like you download Krav Maga, it's in that movie we get to see like we're following our hero, right? And he's going to bad actors and bad agents put this man in a hospital and kill his girlfriend, and he's like, I'm gonna have a stem implant in the back of my head. Yes, spoiler alert, but whatever. If you planned on watching it, you should have already seen it. Anyway, so he's like, I'm gonna go out and open up a can of whoop ass. I got a 6-pack. I'm gonna beat some ass, right? So he's got all these downloaded. When the stem takes over his combat abilities, he's got these very mechanical looking but extremely effective combat maneuvers until he finds somebody else who has the same thing. And they're both like at a standstill. They're like fighting each other and countering and countering, doing a counter against the other person's counter for their counter, trying to fight each other at a standstill. And they're like, whoa, we both have Krav 2.0. We can't fight each other. And so it did bring up the fact that, wait a minute, if there's somebody else who has the same thing I have, how do I get around the fact that I know how badass I am? They have access to my badassery. How do I navigate? Now, in a since today is Third Pillar Thursday, I do want to say that when it comes to locations and the physical environment and representation of those, the same thing applies. Okay, so if the player characters are running around a dreadnought class starship, maybe the bathrooms are more or less located in the same areas. The a Millennium Falcon should have about the same layout in general from that model of starship. They know that the hallways curve around. Maybe they've always had issues with the hyperdrive, and that's why people don't buy them anymore. And they're junk cars like the Yugo or the Pinto or something. I mean, those heck, those spindle cities, stacked spindle cities, may all have the same. Everyone feels the same gravity sensation, or the sneaking through the HVAC system is about the same. So the small PC is like, yep, I know I can fit because I did this before, and so on and so forth. And I listened to Questing Beast. Questing Beast has had some open forums where he talks to other, I guess you could call luminaries in the role playing field, and one of them was talking about the fact that, like, hey, you know, reducing die rolls might just mean the first time you figure out how to the first time you go in a dreadnought class starship and find where the armored locker is for all the weapons, you're going to have to make a bunch of die rolls, maybe some intimidation checks, investigation, hacking. The second time you do it, maybe we don't bother making those die rolls because you already know where it is. And heck, maybe people are lazy, right? It's the please remember your password, don't give it out to anyone, and you walk into any office anywhere, and what happens? There's a post-it note up in the corner with the password to get into the system, right? um, it's possible that the player character is like, you know what, I know where all the lockers are in this one dreadnought class ship, so I know where they are in all the other ones, because people don't bother moving them, despite the fact that, yeah, there are um, bad actors out there. But it also means that when you train people, especially when you have any kind of large organization, everyone needs to know that if you get into um, an F-16 or F-14 Tomcat, I don't know what designation it is, but every pilot that gets in one shouldn't have to keep looking around for where all the stuff is. You get into the thing, pull the cockpit, and you give your hand signals, and you're like, I'm the hell up out of here. You don't need to count where and kind of do an assessment. And so, just like driving a vehicle, locations might be the same way. Habitats built by the same company, homes that are laid out the exact same way, are cities. City planning might be a thing. Hey, every city is a has a central location, and every road goes off of it like a spoke, a round spoke. And when you fly over the landscape of Mars, maybe you see a bunch of these habs that look exactly the same, because the 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 company, uh, Stavros and Forstein company, came here, put down 17 habs, and they all have the same semi-transparent dome, and they all have the same street layout, and the PCs are running around in number 14, and they're going, all right, make a left because that's the place where the CO2 scrubbers are, and also to the right for another 10 minutes, that's where they have their housing their vehicles and stuff. Yeah, but always like, the password is swordfish. Yeah, I know. I like that same scene in that movie too. Although, what a strange movie Swordfish was. Just good, but you're just like, huh? So he was the good guy, but the bad guy, but the I'm confused. But yes, you're absolutely right. Like, don't make your password something easy. 1 2 3 4 9 9 9 9 or something like that, right? Codes and things. People do that all the time. And how many times have we've seen this played plenty of times on television and movies. Hacker needs to find a password to get in. They look around the computer and they see a family photo. They see a, I don't know, some kind of award dangling off of a board or something like that. They lift up the keyboard and sitting under, is that the post-it note? That's that kind of thing. So that, again, reducing some die rolls, things might be available. Also, along with pre-printed locations and the PCs knowing what the hell's going on, and the adversaries as well, we also know that in life there's problems with things. Maybe there's a we all know that there are, when the newness comes out, things have glitches in them, and maybe those glitches might be, pretty lethal glitches. Like, oh, the Stavros Feinstein company that built those 17 habs, yeah, nobody really wants to live in there because, and basically the poor and the blue collar workers live there because they know that solar flare radiation, it doesn't have very good protection against solar flare radiation. All right, so when the PCs are running around and they go in there, they know, well, my sensors are going off. We're going to have a solar flare, solar storm coming up pretty soon, and we're not going to have any rad protection while we're running around in the city. Now, the people in the city might be like zipping up their outfits and putting their hoods on because they kind of know what the hell's going on, or they go back to their cubicle and close the door because it's lined with water or something like that, or lead or something like that. So, I mean, the people might be aware of it because they know there's a problem. It's the buying an automobile knowing that the headliners or the headlights go out all the time, or the radio doesn't work. But if you write that, if it's writ large in our role playing areas, like, hey, there's a Carillion, you see a Carillion freighter, and of course everyone's like, oh, it's a Millennium Falcon. No, it isn't, but it's an old Carillion freighter, and you're like, well, we should run over and go, find it. Man, those things, you can drive them dry and put them away wet, and they still operate. And everyone's like, yeah, but their hyperdrives never work. They're like, well, it's the only one available. Let's run over and get to it, And of course, he's like, it's locked, and you're like, just punch in 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom, door opens up. PCs run in it. Boom, they fly away. It like, you could make it very tongue in cheek if you want to, but it also could be we're being hunted by mechanized warriors, and when they start getting in their Jaegers or something, and the PCs are like, well, we need to run the hours, and you're like, yeah, but those Jaegers have a blind spot from their sensors. All we need to do is hide in the crowd, or send out a sonic signal, or some kind of flare or radio signal or thermal imaging or whatever, and they may understand. Like, it's giving your players a clue. Like, you already know that this danger is, and you know how to spoof it. The goal isn't just getting the knowledge, which might be one aspect of the gaming. The other part might be using that knowledge. Like, yeah, of course you know that you can spoof their thermal imaging, but how do you do it? And everyone's like, I'm going to call up a flash mob. I'm going to use a thermal cloak, or I'm going to start a fire, or throw a flare around the corner to keep away from the Jaegers that are being piloted by our enemies or something. Deadman says, in real life, security method for computer passwords, 20 or so post-its with a few passwords on each one, all stuck to the desk under your keyboard. Ooh, you know what? Okay. It's if you're going to bother breaking the protocols, you might as well make it as confusing as possible. I could see that. It's similar to the every day or every few hours or something, we are changing our communication passcodes, even though they might be the same 5 communication passwords. If you cycle through them, you may not know which one is being used at any particular time. So someone gets on a radio and types in a certain code to activate the radio. Maybe all of the codes turn on a sealed communication device, but during this 8-hour period, the 1, 2, 3, 4 is the alert that someone's got a gun to my head, right? And whereas 9999 might be like, oh no, it's cool, I'm just going to use it and I'm just going to communicate regularly. But so yeah, and there's also different things like when it comes to communications, like how to identify yourself. We've seen plenty of times when a hero is captured, or maybe a hero's sacrificial buddy, um, which is a gaming thing from an old HCAT, Hong Kong Action Theater. I don't know why I remember that, but one of the concepts was that you could have a sacrificial buddy. It was basically like temporary hit points, and you when you of course you have to do a very dramatic no as your sacrificial buddy dies in your hands. But the cool part about the sacrificial buddy was in terms of intellectual properties is enemy has weapon to sacrificial buddy says something that seems innocuous but is important to the hero goes, everyone's like, well, why did they say it that way? And of course, the hero's like, we need to beat them on Cutthroat Ridge. Drive up to Cutthroat Ridge, get there too late. Sacrificial buddy's throat is cut. Villain gets away. We now are doubling down on mofo gotta die, right? But yeah, so so Dead Man being a little ridiculous makes perfect sense because I guarantee you that's probably used in many ways. Like, hey, just get 20 or so post-it notes, all with passwords and things to link into something, which might be a honeypot. It could very well be a honeypot to get someone to use the post-it note to let them know that the minute you use it, now you're monitoring them. Could do it that way. Which player characters may be able to benefit off of that as well. Like adversaries download the same cloud systems that the PCs are doing to counter surveil them, but the PCs know they're being counter surveilled, so they are able to hide from their enemies because they know that they're doing the exact thing that they wanted them to do in the first place, right? It's like it's much like staying away from security cameras. The best way to stay away from security cameras is if you have a feed into those very same security cameras, because you're like, oh, I know where they're looking at, so I know exactly where I shouldn't be, or where I actually should be to not be detected. So of course we always see the heroes hack into the security cam feeds, and so maybe different office buildings have the exact same security cam feeds. We've seen heists done this way as well. Like, I don't need to break into the building. All I need are the blueprints. The blueprints are held by the city. All I need to do is get to the city records. Or there is a security company that has those records. The security company made the building or habitat or something highly defensible, but the security company themselves might be pretty open because they're like, we don't expect anybody to hack into us. We expect them to hack into the secure facility. And the PCs are like, no, we can get the blueprints from somewhere else, like the janitorial service that has to go inside and sweep up each night from all the paperwork or something, things like that. Now, I think another thing too is letting players know about the dangers ahead of them, whether they are natural. I think when there's something that's like open source to other people, the act of knowing that somebody went into dip their hand into something they shouldn't have, like if the player characters are the ones who are keeping order, they are the law enforcers, and an enemy goes into a storage locker that has heavy weapons, they know exactly what their enemies are using. They know they have heavy weapons, and the same could be done for DNA. So, for example, in Eclipse phase, they have artificial biological morphs. You can download yourself into them, and they all aren't human. They can be humanoid or uplifted animals and things of that nature. And so when player characters find out that someone broke into a clone bank, and the PCs are like, "Ooh, those were experimental." I'm going to call them Zenith 6.0s, right? And Zenith 6.0s are fast, strong, smart, have bone lacing, carbon fiber muscles, hyper reflexes or something. And the PCs are like, "Ooh, shoot. We might need to download it. We might need to use these morphs, but our enemy's got like 6 of them. They're going to be pretty badass. So we're going to need to have to fight them when we know exactly what their capabilities are, whether they have chameleon skin or ultra hypnotic voices, sending out sound waves, or any number of 1,000 things that the player characters are completely aware of, but they still are pretty dangerous out there. The what's something else? When it comes to um, alien species and contacting aliens and things like that, the more we learn about aliens, for example, doesn't necessarily make them that any less mysterious. It might just be like, for example, I'm still hate watching the show Debris, and yes, I'm hate watching it, meaning I'm watching it, waiting for the moment at which I can throw my hate at the television and say I told you so, even though the act of me watching the show in effect proves the point of the show of me bringing up the ratings, which I think is it's a weird. We are in a weird society where people are like people are encouraging things literally by their hate for it. It's like this show is stupid. I'm going to tell everybody to watch it because it's so stupid. It's like you, you most people would have more. Sorry, I know I'm squirreling a little bit, but most people who hate something would have a far better impact by ignoring it than to talk about it, about how much they hated something. Like all the people that are like, Falcon and Winter Soldier was stupid, and I'm gonna make a ton of videos about it. And I'm like, you you just drove traffic not just to your channel but to the show itself. Everyone's like, it's really that bad? Let me go check this show out. I gotta see it. It's like it's the I don't know what you guys call it in your neighborhoods. The Gawker delay, um, Gaper delay, looky loos. They've been called. What's when you see an accident on the side of the road and everyone slows down to watch it, and everyone's pissed off because traffic is slowing down, even though the accident is literally on the other side of the road, but everyone has to slow down to watch it. I guess to see if they know somebody under the white sheet or something. I don't know why people do that. It's a weird morbid fascination, but everybody does it, and then everyone that's bitching at all the traffic ahead of them, what do? They slow down and turn and what? Rubbernecking. Yep. Yeah. Oh, for you it's rubbernecking. I've used the rubbernecking, but on the East Coast they used to call it Gawker delay, like literally on the news. They just call it like, oh, just be aware, there's an accident on I-95. There's a Gawker delay of 15 minutes because people are like gawking, like, sorry, I have to do the facial expressions too. Yeah, rubberneck and rubber, like, what's over there? Is this somebody I know? Getting on their phones on the highway, like, let me let go of the steering wheel and text somebody. Did you hear about the accident? But my point, as I recover my squirreliness, my point being, if I even had a point, is that human beings tend to we tend to draw attention to things contrary to our intention to do the thing. And so in how do you even spell gawk? Come on, man. G awk. I don't know. GAWKING, gawking. Yeah, I think that's it. Oh man. Uh, sorry, it just had me. Anyway, it had me thinking of vomiting birds for some reason. Um, all right, so the show Debris is starting to like coalesce into alien debris comes down to Earth. 3 years ago, there was a destroyed alien spacecraft. 6 months ago, the debris starts hitting Earth, and the agents are running around in a agency called Orbital, and their enemy is a group called Influx, and Influx is like they want the alien debris and information to be open to everyone, kind of. And then of course the American and the British agencies are working against each other because they're trying to figure out how to use it. And oh yeah, I'm with you, Dead Man. We're making fun of the We're making fun of the English language because some things sound like what they are, like the word moist. Need I say it? Moist. Yeah, don't get me gumming a banana. That would give you the actual audio sound of what moist sounds like. um, so the you don't need to scientifically explain the hazards or dangers or side effects of what is in your world, just as long as they are consistent enough that the players know that when the thing they engage with happens, that they know it's going to happen that way again, right? So, oh no. Kids, oh no, not moist. Moist. Yeah, my next character is going to be named the Gawker. What do? I just look in windows and stare. Mm. +7 stare at my PCs when they sleep. Anyway, the alien technology, bringing two alien artifacts together opens up a wormhole, right? We don't need to know why the wormhole works. We don't need to know the scientific reasoning. All we need to know is that, like two magnets, when you bring these two things together, it opens up and there's a wormhole. And we need to watch out because the enemies are trying to get us to pilot our Aerodyne vehicle into one of these wormholes because they stole these two alien artifacts and are trying to bring them together, right? That's just, it's ripping that out of my ass, but you get the point, okay, right? Like, it doesn't PCs land on alien world and they have enemies on the alien world, and they understand that when the red lightning bolts storms come overhead and strike the giant monoliths, that um, it drives you insane. Okay, and we found I don't know, survivors or something that had passed out for hours and hours and they don't remember anything. And there's a red lightning storm overhead and the lightning bolts are reaching down and striking the monoliths. We need to get out of here. Why? Because we're going to be driven insane. The science behind it, you don't need to know that, but the ramifications of knowing the thing is that, we don't have time to run and gun. We got to get the hell out of here because chances are we're going to pass out, and maybe they're like downloading our brains or infecting us with some other kind of alien technology or whatever have you, right? Hell, all of the infected by the alien MacGuffin it works in this case, right? There's black worms squirreling behind your eye, and you're just like, no, oh my god, they're inside of me. I'm going to be a chest burster, mouth vomiter, eye bleeder pretty soon, and everyone's like, we need to lock you in another room, and like, please don't do that. Do we know why that's happening? No, but we understand it will. And so when the PCs come across an adversary that's locked in a chair, going through spastic fits with worms behind their eyes, they're like, press the button, lock door, please. Vent into space because you know what's going to happen. Chest bursting, mouth vomiting time, right? Ooh, all the survivors have another personality that doesn't remember. Ooh, now that might be a thing too. Where what if going to the red lightning bolts hit monoliths and you wake up with a different personality? What if one of those personalities is one that knew what happened to begin with, and now the idea is to which player character is going to let their personality be removed from their body to have another personality put into it who's going to help them navigate their way out of it, right? That'd be kind of cool, especially if you have like open source body and mind situations that finding the correct personality or memory to find a situation. Maybe there was a scientist that knows how to deprogram to get the failsafe working before the habitat explodes, and the scientist's memory's been uploaded somewhere, and they have to find the cloud server or the database or whatever, the node or something, and download the scientist's brain to get them to help them out. And the scientist is like, oh, thank goodness, a real body. And they're like, we don't have time for you to feel yourself up. We need you to reprogram this thing. And they're like, oh, click, 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 click. How long have I been down? 175 years. What the mother? Things like that. Um, Deadman says Gawk was one of the failed characters from the movie Mystery Men. I gawk heavily. Hit by a bus. The Gawker. Was that really in the Mystery Men? That was a movie that was before its time. I like the movie. Mike Gould says I would think a Sector 9 take would have been better. The tech slowly rewrites your DNA to make you one of them. What is it? Not Sector 9. Oh shit. What a great movie. I was about to say Deep Space Nine. But I know what you're talking about. Yes, yeah. Yep. Slowly. Well, same thing there, right? We don't really know we don't know the scientific reason why, but the fact that it starts to spread through humanity, and our DNA starts getting rewritten, and they would just nuke those shanty towns. So yeah, but still, it would be pretty cool. Yeah, I agree with you. Mystery Man is gold. It says Marvel did a similar thing during the 90s with the techno-organic virus. They sure did. And before that, there was an X-Men story with the Brood, the what were they called? Not xenomorphs, not synthomorphs. Oh, some man, I can't remember the name of them, but they were called the Brood. It was basically a play on aliens, but instead of like chest bursting, it would rewrite your DNA after you failed to navigate like a horror dream or something like that. It was cool. Cam says, make it a personality burrito and put them inside another character's mind palace. A personality burrito. Ooh, stuff it on the inside, roll it up, and nuke it. Yeah, that's all it takes. Or the player characters might have to walk around. What's the term? We are legion because we are many, right? Like maybe the player characters need to find and get these different personality types, making them effective, but the personality makes it problematic because each personality wants to be first. Yeah. There it is, the Brood. Yep. It stole it off the Aliens movies. Yeah, as an infection changing you on a base level. That's the alien craft in South Africa, but it wasn't called Sector 9, and I can't remember the name of it. Why can't I remember the name of that movie? And it's great too. Ushi says 2 characters could act as left brain, right brain of a larger organism. I like that idea as well. I like the idea of and that was kind of the basis of Pacific Rim. You needed 2 pilots and you had to do the not the synergy, not the stream. It was a crossing where their brains had to act as one. District 9. Damn it! Thank you. Deadman's like, it's District 9. I don't need to tell you this. Yes, it's District 9. Which I heard rumors they're going to try to do a District 10. District 9. Excellent movie. Yeah. Sudoku 1 says, play up 1 logical and 1 creative. Oh, hell yeah. Now I would love it if player characters could become both like 1 player's left and 1 player's right side, but as a dungeon master, dungeon master, storyteller, you guys know what I mean. A player could be one side of the brain and the person running the game's the other side of the brain, and there might be that little conflict issue going on where in order to solve the problem, you have to download the open source of the information, whether there's personalities attached with skills, attached with knowledge they have, and then do it that way. But I like that idea, especially if you know in the beginning it's like a comedy of errors. In the middle section, it's the give and take, like you might have to compromise, and then at the end, it's the complete synergy where the player is able to merge with, say, a handful of other personalities to be like badass martial artists or a sniper or a hacker or heck, even a charismatic leader or something of that nature. And that might be how you explain character advancement, maybe in this world, or at least a section of the world or something. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for popping in. Sometimes I'll come up with an idea. It's the drift in the drift in the Jaegers, and it's the drift with the two pilots, and they have to work together. And yeah, they came up with some pseudoscience, but really it was just because in order for us to care about the characters, they felt like you needed to see both of them on screen together. And actors love to play ball with each other, throw back and forth. So that makes a lot of sense too. You want the two actors physically in the same space, talking and facing each other as much as possible. So that's it. Yeah, Dead Man, thank you. Drift was slang for the neural handshake, which I forgot it was called the neural handshake, which kind of is a better description of what I was kind of thinking of. Like a neural handshake is a possibility of having something open source as well. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here. Tomorrow, of course, is Future Friday, and of course, on Future Friday, we talk about nothing but science fiction, which is kind of what we motivated me this whole day. So anyway, guys, thank you so much. Have a great one. I will see thee later. Thanks for watching. Bye.